To the main stage at Most Wanted Music 2023 here in the Kesselhaus. I'm Jonah and your host for today. And a couple months ago, I registered on an open AI website, and I must admit, I think I'm one of the more boring customers of this website because I just use it for smaller requests like translation. But sometimes I ask the AI for its own opinion, and I get a quite subjective, biased answer. Have you experienced something similar before? So I know AI doesn't have its own opinion, but it's fed by information coming from humans, and humans tend to be full of biases and stereotypes. Together with artist allapopp and co-founder of Dreaming Beyond AI, Buse Çetin, we'll explore what kind of chances and risks we take with AI with a focus on ethics. Creative director and creative technologist Tabitha Swanson will be so kind and lead us through their conversation. So I introduce those amazing people to the stage. Have fun.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hello. Hey. Okay, amazing. Well, thank you all so much for being here. We are extremely excited to give this presentation and speak with you a little bit about, what's going on in the world of AI. So some introductions first off. We have allapopp and we have Buse. And allapopp is from Tatarstan, Russia, and is a Berlin-based interdisciplinary digital media and performance artist. Allapopp's work fuses immersive, tech-inclusive envisioning with an activist agenda, speculating on various states of mind, relationships, and self-perception, altered by socially and emotionally intelligent digital technologies. Formerly working within the domains of performance, sound, machine learning, interactive live phygital formats, and experiences in VR, AR, XR, and the web, allapopp has been trained and has practiced art in Germany, across the EU, China, Rwanda, Japan, and the USA. Allapopp is the co-founder of Tatar KYZ Kesselhaus, thank you so much, and BBB music projects, and is part of the Digital Feminism Collective. And Buse is an AI researcher, consultant, and creative. Her work revolves around the ethics, impact, and governance of AI systems, and is grounded in critical epistemologies such as intersectional feminism and decoloniality. Buse is the co-founder of research, art, and advocacy program platform Dreaming Beyond AI. Cool. Well, we are going to pop into a little bit of both of their work. Hopefully this plays. This is a video from allapopp.
Maybe I just jump in and say a word. I would like to introduce you my work. I would like to show you three works to present, to give you an understanding of where. Can we pause it for just 1 second? Yeah, to give you an understanding where am I coming from to the point of this conversation. So this is project number 1 that is called The House of Monstrous Intelligentsia, the most recent version of it that I've done together with my colleague Janne Kummer, who's today here. And so let's have a look at the video, and then I say a couple words to that.
I got dragged through an AI image generator and was turned into a bot version of myself, deemed to forever represent the prompt, beautiful young woman.
I got dragged through an AI image generator and was turned into a bot. A better version of myself, deemed to forever represent the prompt, beautiful woman.
Hi, my name is Jana. I am an AI researcher, and this is my story.
Hi, my name is Ala. I am an AI researcher, and this is my story.
It's like, have you ever heard of...
It's AI everywhere.
The 10 most important tools.
Rather regret the things that I've done than the things that I have not done. I'm so scared.
The 8 most important tools.
AI. Never mistake motion for action.
The 8 most important tools.
AI.
It's AI everywhere.
Logic will get you from A to B. Imagination will take you everywhere.
Work while you have the light. You are responsible for the talent that has been entrusted to you.
Dreams come true. Without that possibility, nature would not incite us to have them.
If you smile when no one else is around, you really mean it.
Intelligence.
It's like, have you ever
if it is possible at all.
Have you ever heard
what
of...
we ended up doing in 3 different versions,
AI
this
everywhere.
last version. In all 3 versions of this project, we actually were just battling with problems, talking about how it is actually impossible, what kind of obstacles we're facing while trying to get to the point of coding or creating data banks, data sets that are could be. Could represent a different kind of data, etc., etc. So AI could look into different directions for that sake. So yeah, and in this project we everything in this project is AI generated. So the videos, the sound, and we created clone voices of Elon Musk and Andrew Huberman, and Tim Cook and Larry Page, Zuckerberg, Bill Gates. So we kind of used all of this consumer technology that is out there that allowed us, without coding, kind of hack into their, to kind of take up space in their space. And we invited Elon Musk to talk about Berkheim, and interrogated this man from this industry, those people who decide for how technology, what technology will be. So, and we interrogated them, and we also interrogated ourselves, because from a feminist point of view, you need to question, what is your own position. And as queer people and as Flintas, it is also important to reflect on where we stand in creating this technology. So, yeah, and the second video I'll show just a very short excerpt, which is sound and visual based. we can just pause here. This project is called Songs of Bourgeoisie, and I created it together as part of my collective BBB with Alex Sam and other amazing artists. And the idea behind this project was to look into the future and to ask what technological future could look like. Back 2 or 3 years ago, where we yet didn't realize that the future, past and present, are collapsing, we were asking for the future. And here, a narcissistic algorithm who realizes that not entirety of the world consists of data that can be understood and processed by AI comes to a point of meets an oracle and becomes nature. And from that, we created a tarot deck. And what I find, and I still work with this tarot deck because I find it very interesting. The tarot deck is called Bourgeoisie deck, Bourgeoisie tarot, and the idea behind it is to bring in technological aspect to the spiritual, and maybe take away the formality and rigidity of technology, as we usually talk about. There's hard science, and then there's something that is natural and spiritual. And so this approach of combining, softness and looking into the future and critically interrogating the AI as a system brought me to a point of my current research, which is focusing around the project that is called Diviner AI that I'm just starting right now. And this project includes a decolonial approach that comes from my, I think this can be the next slide. There is not that much. Includes my own heritage, as I am a Tatar person. I come from Tatar people. It's an ethnic minority in Russia. And this is my other music project, Tatar Kızlar, that we just mentioned. And in this project, we're trying to bring back our culture, while right now in Russia it's being more or less erased through Russia's agenda, that is agenda of unification and Russification. So the fundings are being cancelled, and there's no, when I try to think about what my culture, what my language, what my people, who I actually was really rejecting for a very long time, not because I thought it's not cool, what's going to happen with them in the future? And working with technology, I realized that, AI does not include, AI as a system does not include, really doesn't focus on that, on us and on so many other, ethnic, or not ethnic, on any other minority knowledge, etc. So I want, right now I'm working on this. I'm trying to find ways on how to create technology that could include this knowledge, but does not work in a exploitative, in exploitative manner. Yeah, this is where I'm at.
Yeah.
Hello, this is, wow, okay. This is Buse, and I'm gonna also show you some bits of my work. And even today, I struggle to define it and I guess explain what I do to people and to myself. But I think one project that I'm proud of is called Dreaming Beyond AI. Dreaming Beyond AI is a platform for research, policy, advocacy, and art around AI. So it's not necessarily about, showing AI art, but it's a commentary bringing people together to think about the foundations, the assumptions, the ideas that uphold the mainstream, and also most of the time exploitative or harmful understandings of what we consider as AI, and looking into that mythologies and narratives and questioning and redefining also, I think, what we want. It's not easy, but it is also a quite community-based collaborative project. So shout out to Nushin Yazdani, who is the co-founder of this project, who is an artist and designer, and Io Bisek, who did the web development and design, and Sarah Diadro, who is responsible for communications. We can go to the So there is a bit moment of self-promotion, like and subscribe. But I guess some of the things that I try to do is I started working on AI from a policy and governance class that I was taking during my master's. And I liked it because it was very pluridisciplinary, and you can think about existence. What does it mean to be a human, or jobs and automation, or agency, or bias and explainability. So there are really many foundational aspects of what we call AI and the whole industry and the ecosystem. But what I realized was that, of course, it makes sense that we have like this kind of, our understandings come from science fiction and like popular images and narratives, which are quite far away from what is also actually happening with the systems that we use or we are subjected to without our knowledge. And I think there's like a strong link to be made with the questions of I think equity, justice, equality, what it means to be a human in this world in 5 years and 30 to 20 years. So I think so far one part of my work has been trying to demystify and translate that, and also that it's not impacting everybody in the same way. The harms and also the rewards or benefits are really unevenly distributed on many levels, and this is what I'm trying to talk about for now, because I think there's a need. There are some things that you can check out, and the next one is, since this is about music industry and business, I started this newsletter, and the first one was SZA's album, and that she talks about AI. So again, I'm really interested in like popular culture, like mainstream understandings of AI, but I was like, oh, let me put this. It seems a little bit related to the conference and relatable. But yeah. Oh, so I forgot to say something. So I basically do like research and like policy advocacy and also like creative stuff around AI, basically.
Amazing. So yeah, just as a quick summary, like the purpose of the talk today, I think both Alla and Buse have a lot of experience coming from different sides of it, from working very hands-on in the creative field to working in a more research kind of functioning role. A lot of what we'll be doing here is asking questions ourselves as well, because there's so many things that we don't necessarily know the answers to, but we can see that there are things happening, that need to be spoken about. So with that in mind, just as a kind of baseline thing, we wanted to go over what is AI, how is it built, how does it function, and just give everyone a little bit of info to work with here.
Okay. So AI or artificial intelligence is, I think it's a complicated and very interesting question that there's no consensus on. So even, like researchers, technologists, they cannot necessarily say, oh, this is AI and this isn't, because it's multiple things, in the sense that, first of all, it's a misleading word, because it says that it under lines that the technology, like it is artificial, and there's this big component like intelligence that we need to, I guess, also deconstruct and look into. But before getting into that, it's a combination of techniques and technologies, including machine learning and actually other techniques. But it's not only technology in the sense that we understand it. I think like when we think about technology, we tend to think about like tools. There is this metaphor of a hammer that is used a lot. And I think that's misleading when it comes to thinking about AI, and how we conceptualize it is actually very important and powerful. So I don't see it as a tool. Of course, it has very important material foundations. It's also not something that is totally abstract on a screen. It comes from earth minerals, materials, and lots of labor, and we can, I guess, dive into that in a bit. But it is a set of technologies. It is also a product, a business product that is, that we use, marketed. We are the users and consumers, and we also get to train it as we use it with our data and labor. But it is also a mythology of efficiency, like an ideology that kind of says that when you have more empirical evidence or data, you are closer to the truth and to predicting the future. You can optimize things, cut resources, and so on. So there is a very strong a mythology about superhuman, like super intelligence, and lots of representations around that.
Maybe also just add to this very particular definition also that AI is in a way future, that I don't think that we will be able to escape it because there's too much money on the table. And so the way the AI tools as a tool and the way AI as a system works today and the way these tools work is today they're defining our future. So I think that it is important to reflect on the fact that if you're not engaging yourself with this, with the field in the field of AI, and if you not create an understanding for yourself, then you're kind of taking away your own chances on co-designing the future or even being part of it.
Yeah, definitely. I also think that what you said, Buse, was important of every time that we're using these tools, we are feeding into it, which is then training it more. And a lot of the time we're doing that for free, which is interesting. I'm curious because I know that if I remember correctly, you've worked a bit with Python, Alla, and you've been building some of your own tools as well.
Not really. Unfortunately not.
Okay.
It's rather one of the obstacles that I realized. I've been working with so-called collabs, which are, which have a surface that does not necessarily need a understanding of, full understanding of Python to be able to program something. But it's actually, even to use this collabs, you need to have some understanding. So if something doesn't work, so people pre-build it for you, and you can try to use it for your own training. But if something is broken, you can't fix it, actually.
Mm-hmm. I think I want to say something to what you said, and because I hear a little bit of determinism in what you said about AI is the future, and we cannot. And I don't know. I feel sometimes also I think powerless, or as if we cannot impact the course of things and so on. But I also want to resist to it a little bit, because I feel like it is also a lot pushed by the companies who want to show this as the future, because but it's not inherently progressive. And I know that you're not saying that, but I think this is how we're presented when it comes to AI, and I want us to a little bit take a pause on that. And actually, even though there's a lot of, I think, money and influence, the systems are also quite fragile and most of the time super stupid. And and it takes away this very important aspect of, for me, I've been thinking about it recently, and I don't have the best words to describe it as yet, but embodiment. Now creating clones of everything, or kind of simulating experiences, but taking away that embodiment part of the experience of being a human, which is, I think, so vital and essential. And I think we're all feeling that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Some complex topics.
That's great. I love it that you said that. I mean, since we're in the debate, I just want to say that I come thinking about AI as a future as a form of like being scared of it, being afraid. And I think we grew up, or like at least I grew up, with the narratives of the future. They're rather dystopian, I don't know much about, and they had some utopian ideas, but they all we got disappointed in them. There's there are no perfect systems. There's no utopia. So I think that dystopia is something that works kind of like in a way can work well for people, or maybe also not, because on one hand it can, kind of freeze them, and they were like, okay, I can't change anything anyway. But it can also be a different way. So and this is how it works for me. That with a dystopia, I'm like, oh my God, this is not a future that I want. So I really want to now start engaging.
I love that as well. Yeah, but for me, like both, like the dystopian and utopian narratives, like we need them. We need inspiration. We need to be able to visualize, okay, how this could look like. It just makes things like way easier. But one problem that I have with like mainstream utopian or like images of the future is that everything is flying. But like there is no difference whatsoever in people's behaviors and social structures whatsoever. And most of the time I find like the utopian and dystopian narratives to be like a little bit totalizing, and I think they're just like unfolding at this very moment, at the present, all together, all the time. But it's also maybe like catching right now all these shades of what is like maybe on the spectrum of like what is dystopian and utopian. And me, I get scared and I like freeze a bit, and I want to think that I have power to influence things, even though I don't know how to code and I don't have a lot of money, and I'm not head of one of these companies. But I guess everybody has their coping mechanism in this moment, where even the idea of future like sometimes feels like a luxury. Because of the ecological crisis and the conflicts that are going on in the world, and like where you come from and like the generational trauma that you're carrying in your body, to be able to project yourself into like 10, 20 years. Mm-hmm. Well, I was just going into
but just maybe building on that a bit more, you do work with policy workshops and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, so basically this is where I started. It was about, it was like 2018. There has been this boom of AI ethics principles, and like Google's, Facebook back then, they were all publishing, we think AI should be ethical, AI should be responsible, AI should do this and not do that. And, there has been people in the field like who have been working on, for example, like, let's say bias, explainability and all these topics, but it's really started, I think, gaining momentum after like 2016 or so in the collective, like more mainstream arena. And since I was studying public policy, I was like, what is this? This is like a real thing now. It's not Blade Runner. It's not like 2001: A Space Odyssey. Something is happening. And this is like how I kind of was introduced to it. But I was also a little bit disappointed, and I still am, with the policy world, even though I think it's very important. And I know that there's like different, very important pieces of legislation in the EU, especially the Digital Services Act, kind of requiring for platforms to protect people's fundamental rights and like other things, and like be more transparent and so on, came into effect a couple of months ago. And I know that the EU AI Act has been in the talks for the last 2 years or so. There also, there's like a lot of discussion and debate, and it's important that somebody sets a framework and the limits, and think about collective interests and rights and so on. But it is also a lot about I think a little bit watered down discourse when it comes to like really taking action, and there's always a risk of things being a lot of bureaucracy and big corporations having lots of power and influence and like lobbying power. That's actually, I think, is like the tobacco industry. Or like there has been recent investigative journalism reports showing like how millions of dollars they're actually spending to lobby also the EU officials so that the regulation is not super constraining for them. But most of the stuff so far hasn't been super binding, and I think we're still allowing a lot of unacceptable, like design products to pass, and not only by the private sector, but they're also very problematic and a little bit uncritical uses of AI systems when it comes to distributing opportunities and benefits and like other public services.
One question that I have that maybe I've been curious about, and I would love to hear both of your opinions. Do you think that one day there will be some sort of kind of worldwide agreement on AI and technology in that way, in the same way that there's for nuclear? Is that possible? Obviously, geopolitics plays so much of a part in, you know, this seemingly this kind of rat race that every country is kind of racing to be the first to do something, and it's like racing towards what you know, what is the goal here even? But is that even possible?
Maybe short answer from my side. I'm very scared of thinking about that, you know, because now we can see as countries are stepping out of the, you know, nuclear agreements. So what's the point of such agreements if nobody's following? And I think what I will be more interested in imagining first and then speculating, because I think this is my role as an artist. I need to be able to imagine and to inspire some visions and then speculate about policies. But maybe, Buse, it's something you could answer.
I mean, yes, in the sense that like there are multiple things. First of all, there is a arms race, AI arms race narrative that is quite popular, let's say, by when it comes to talking about AI in like policy or like public venues, right? It's about, US, it's a race between the US and China and who has the leadership in technology, because this technology is speculated to or like estimated by some consulting companies like PwC, you know, McKinsey and so on their like in their annual reports. AI is going to make whatever X $million to your GDP, and how this is how you're going to optimize and basically gain in productivity and so on and so forth. And it's also a tool that is developed in the military first, right? It's before being private. Also, when you look at the like history of technology, it's in the like everything gets first in the military, and there is like this very surveillance and also like military uses of technology. That's why it's geopolitics. It's in the sphere of geopolitics for countries, and most of them have published AI strategies in the past, and they're still doing. Of course, there are also like arenas of collaboration and cooperation. Like I know that UNESCO, again, like had a widely abided like guidelines about AI, or the OECD or a global partnership on AI tries to. I think there is the US. I'm not sure if there's China, but it was founded by Canada and France. So it is on the, also you see G7, G20, it's on the agenda of the leaders, and there are like at least a certain, I think, common grounds, but there's also a lot this narrative of like, we shouldn't let China win because the type of society that they're developing is inherently anti-democratic, and it's going to be this and that. And there might be, you know, like truth in all these viewpoints, but I think it's also like quite instrumentalizing a technology in a new like form of like harmful, basically, narrative and using and understanding it as a weapon. So
creating an other.
Yeah, creating an other, basically, and like mongering like fear, because it's a tool that might bring economic gains, and it's also used for surveillance and in the military. It's a power tool, basically.
Yeah, great answers. I guess moving on to the next one. So when we had our talk the other day, we had some really interesting kind of dialogue about like what happens to your data after death. You know, what should data rights be when it comes to scraping data, the ownership of data, the rights of it, and also the transparency that companies and corporations should be obligated to give. And curious to hear both of your thoughts on it.
I again will start with the artist position. So my experience with data sets and data rights, I would say I have rather experience with the data sets than data rights, trying to create. One of the models that I've trained was the text model. When Jan and I and one of the researchers, I was training in our attempt to actually create some kind of a queer feminist AI model. That will produce you some pieces of text that you could, consult with in a way. And our hope was that it would actually produce you some ideas and, tell you what you should do. I picked about 30 books that I was able to find that combined the topic of technology, feminist approaches, queer feminist approaches, kind of like articles and books, etc., like 30 pieces. And I remember talking with Nushin about this. And Nushin was like, so did you ask the authors, of this literature to be part of your data set? And I was like, no, I didn't. And it was like 2-3 years ago, and I realized that, that it is so easy to do this because data is just out there. It's all over internet, and you can, you really have to be very conscious about what you're doing while you're doing it. So, yeah, thanks to Dream Beyond AI sensitization. I kind of. Then was confronted with that question. And the other model that I'm working on right now is the sound model of the Tatar AI. So, and it was quite a run trying to collect this kind of music, Tatar folk music that is usually, that its most unique characteristic exists in the voice. So it's like choirs and like single people singing in that special way. So collecting this data was very difficult. So I actually consciously again decided to go for data scraping. I'm just like scraping across the internet to, create some kind of data set that will allow me to at least, produce some test results. But unfortunately, so far it's been unsuccessful. My training, but also it's a question like, where do you get the data? So there is no data bank, no data set that is out there with a Tatar music. Nobody is interested in doing this. It doesn't bring any money. So you can't find it online. And I, at the moment, can't go to Russia to, or like to Tatarstan to consult the people who, those institutes that are kind of still are trying to preserve some of the Tatar culture. So yeah, this is my take on, on data.
I love it. Okay, I think it's a quite multi-dimensional topic to be saying like, oh, scraping is good or bad, or you should do this and you shouldn't do that. I think you always need to ask the question of like who, with whom, for what, what purpose. When it comes to, I think, OpenAI scraping my data, personal information, or if I'm an artist, my work without my permission to feed it into a commercial application, I don't think it should be this way. But when it comes to artistic experimentation, exploration, it depends on how you're approaching it and how you're looking at it. And also when it comes to, we need to make sure that scraping is possible in order to also verify the claims made by companies and, for example, platforms. I'm working with a non-profit organization that is called AI Forensics. It's basically what we do is to, TikTok is gonna tell the let's say the European Union, oh yeah, we're really taking the mental health of teens seriously, but then we're going to scrape data or like use bots or like sock puppets and then basically uncover and understand that no, if you just spend if you just watch a few videos on suicidal ideation on the platform, you are going to be consistently served this kind of content because it makes you engage, and this is what they optimize for, and then it can take people who are in a vulnerable position into a very dark loop, you know? So you need to be able to like hack the system, circumvent things, introduce noise, or like obfuscate. So you need all these tools available. But when it comes to who is doing it, with which power, and for what, and for whom, I think these are the questions that we need to be always asking when approaching data. Because data is, you know, there's also another kind of paradox, is that you want to be, you're not recognized, let's say, for facial recognition systems, and you are falsely flagged as like a suspect, or you're in the airport whatsoever. And most of the time, this is people who are already marginalized, right? Based on factors as race, gender, you know, and the social class and other prisms of power of the society, which is not something new, but this time it is automated and amplified. But do you want to solve the problem by basically making the surveillance tool more representative so that you can be detected? So it's about like being this negotiation between being seen and recognized and not wanting to be seen and recognized. And I think the really gist of the question is in the choice. Do you have the choice? Do you have the agency? Do you have a recourse mechanism when you think your rights are being violated, either individually or collectively, by platforms and companies that function as a ruthless, capitalist, profit-driven logic?
Great answers. I guess that brings us to our next topic, which is truth and censorship. Obviously, every single person in the world has their own version of truth to some degree, and truth is also very different when it comes to an individual's perspective versus a government's perspective versus a corporation's perspective of, you know, what is truth to them, what they're looking for. Censorship is also really interesting when it comes to, you know, how do we want these algorithms to function? What you just said about if someone has suicidal ideation was really interesting because, yeah, how should this be managed? How can it be managed? Is it possible to put these policies in place? And just general thoughts about it.
Speak your truth.
Yeah, truth is very difficult. I really don't know. I never know how to talk about truth, as you said. But in relation to AI, I think truth is even more difficult because the systems that carry, AI tools and the systems that are standing behind them are being often presented to us as if it's something that knows everything, you know, like kind of almighty, all-knowing systems, and you can, you know, go and talk to ChatGPT, and it will, you know, give you all the information that you're seeking for, and it will give you all the information. But the question is, not all of this information is truth. And then again, we're coming to a point, what is truth? So I think it is just important to remember that there is certain type of knowledge that is not being part of these systems. And the question is, who decides which knowledge is part of the system, you know, which knowledge, what are the reasons that some knowledge is not becoming part of that system and that some of it is being presented in a way that is not true to those who originally carry that knowledge, etc. So I think it is, in regard to truth and AI, it's very important to just remember that it is not almighty and it doesn't know everything. So, for instance, when I'm trying to translate a text, you know, from English into Tatar, or like from Tatar into any other languages, usually like it pretends that it does know, so it like very confidently translates stuff for me, and then it turns out to be that it's totally wrong. And there, I think OpenAI brought out now like this kind of different. I think it's called like multilingua. Something model where the small I think it's called small data sets, or it's like small languages that are not very popular. No, these are not the mainstream or like the main colonizer languages that are spread across the world, and they're trying to kind of like build models that kind of like communicate to each other and are able to translate these languages without like something in between. But A, it doesn't work so well yet, and B, I actually really wonder why. And no, it's not OpenAI. Sorry, it was Meta, and I think that it's Meta is doing this, of course, for their services, but that's the only incentive that I can kind of follow from what they're doing.
I'm thinking about Meta's AI Kendall Jenner for some reason.
It hasn't been able to leave my mind.
Or the Pope
haunting me.
Like the picture of Pope with the Balenciaga coat, was it like that?
The Pope with the Balenciaga?
Yeah, this
I've
like
seen a lot of
viral
Pope ones.
Yeah, AI-generated images, basically, making you really second-guess yourself a lot. And when I see, like, right now a video, I ask myself, oh, is this real? Is this, made by, who is behind this and everything? And when it comes to truth, I like the standpoint theory in feminism, or maybe it was by Donna Haraway. I can't recall exactly the name of the concept, but it was about like the first picture of Earth, and taken by like somebody in the space. I don't know their name, and how we actually forget that the picture is the view from nowhere. Yeah, the picture is taken from somewhere, and probably truth is kind of the accumulation or the combination of pictures from different angles. And sometimes they're conflicting, but I think there's no one truth in the sense that there is like more complete truths that is enriched by these pictures taken from, I think, different points of view. And right now, I think we're also being pushed to hold contradiction and complexity. So I'm not saying that everything is subjective, there's no truth, there's no one thing that we build it, obviously. And the systems that we're embedded in, including technological systems, are co-building truths. And they're giving more power to certain truths than others. And most of the time, it also overlaps with, again, questions of power. I think today is a very hot topic to talk about truth and censorship and which kind of discourses are authorized and promoted and which ones are demoted. I have seen and witnessed a lot of my friends doing this like thing that's I think Cory Doctorow from EFF, Algo Speak. It's basically is that we don't have no understanding of the systems and the logics of the algorithms, that we start speculating, oh, the algorithm does this, the algorithm likes that, and I should do like kind of embed our behavior, train our behavior by speculating and observing these systems. And I've seen, for example, a lot of my friends who have been sharing developments about Gaza that say like, oh, I need to put myself a picture of mine because the algorithm is going to shadow ban me because it doesn't like what I say, because my point of view or like this information that I'm sharing is not supported by the official discourse whatsoever. Or I think I saw it on an article, a press article, Meta, like Instagram, translating, Palestine and the word in Arabic, praise be to God, as Palestinian terrorists automatically. So it's what kind of, they're obviously participating in engraving and like making certain truths more widely spread and seen and accepted. Then I think we need more discernment with everything that is from like generative AI to social media platforms and the times that we spend and the images that and we also need to, I think, be humble and understand and remind ourselves how, manipulative, how we can be easily manipulated also. Therefore, I think maybe it's also time to go back to really getting information from multiple sources and reading and informing yourself and then creating a community and trying to do these things collectively. But I don't have the perfect answer to that right now.
Just a little. I really like how you said that about the how. So there's people say. This is how to train your algorithm. You remember, like there was like a time on TikTok where like, oh yeah, my algorithm is so well trained, and it's amazing. And now it's more like that the algorithm is training you into into certain behavior.
Yeah, exactly. Especially, I think you can speak to this as an artist, or like I guess other people in the business and industry, and like who are artists can speak to that. Like now, it's not even like an afterthought, I guess. Okay, if I put this out, is this going to be seen? Because then it creates your image, and it's good that you can connect with a lot of people who don't know you, or like you get access to certain opportunities and a lot of knowledge. But I think with it comes like really a need for discernment, because the platforms are not neutral. Even though we can argue that we have like this qualified like certain institutions or people who were gatekeeping or like deciding on people's tastes, like are we replacing them also? What kind of other intermediaries, is this the algorithm, and how does it affect, again, as you said, our behavior and the commercial logics behind that and so on?
Totally. And if those people are replaced, how many levels of algorithms is something going to go through to like then be checked by another algorithm and then be checked by another algorithm? Yeah, it's really hard, I think, to know the answer to this one. But I know that we're running a little short on time. So maybe to go to the next question, governments and data sets. I know we've spoken a little bit about this already. Is there anything else we wanted to add? I know that you had mentioned something really interesting about the Netherlands.
Oh, yeah. So this example of childcare scandal in 2018 in Netherlands, I think, just like to understand that we have this bias towards computers because they can do some calculations that we cannot do, and they can store information that we cannot, remember and store and so on. But we have this computational bias, which we think that, if it's a computational system, then it must be true. And I think it's understandable and something like maybe very human, but it's also a little bit like even like a reflex, that we don't necessarily maybe question. But when this is done in an uncritical way, like in very important, like vital areas of life, like such as like criminal justice or like hiring or access to certain opportunities, the stakes are quite high, and there are real people on the line, even though maybe we see them on the interface like data points or like just names, And I think this is one example that struck me, and it was the first time there was this conference I saw and listened to someone who was affected by this problem, which is, I'm not very knowledgeable of all the intricacies, but basically there has been, I think, a fraud scandal in the Netherlands when it comes to the allocation of childcare. And then the state, in order to counter that, started using algorithmic systems to flag people who basically do fraud in their, application and demand for child care support. But since the systems that are not necessarily, making like causal judgments, but mostly finding patterns, and they can equate a correlation between like a X data point with like Y outcome that is not necessarily, causally linked. What ended up happening was that between 2007 and 2018, I think, 26,000 families have been wrongfully flagged as committing fraud and asked to repay what states paid them. And another very interesting fact is that those people had an immigration background and had dual citizenship, like systemically targeted and flagged as committing fraud. And this had also real life consequences because most of the time, people who are asking for this support is probably they're from lower income households. Maybe they have also like other systemic barriers and so on and so forth. So it's just like easier for them to go bankrupt and like be in total debt or and so on and so forth, and totally disrupting their livelihoods, and also stigmatization because what can you say? How can you basically say, oh, I don't think this is true? The state officials, they're going to probably think that you're lying. And, it's really, I think, also something that hurts like human dignity in not only material ways, but also immaterial ways that kind of stay. So that's why, should the states be careful? Yes, they should be careful. Way more than this, and why it took us years to realize basically that this happened, and what happens after that, and so on.
Yeah, I mean, people and including governments and everything can sometimes look at this, similar to what you said, as some sort of magical entity or like the Wizard of Oz or whatever, but when you peek behind the curtain, sometimes it's not functioning as you would imagine it would in a perfect environment. So going on to wealth, power, and control. So obviously, AI is and will continue to increase wealth disparities between different groups of people. Those who are owning these technologies will hold quite a lot of power and remove a lot of autonomy, actually, from a number of people, the majority of people in many cases. Is there anything we wanted to add here? I know we've covered quite a few topics already.
Yeah, I think when we just one thing for me is that when we speak about AI, like we're not only speaking about a piece of technology, but we're speaking about actually, I think like I'm personally, I want to be joyful and also experiment with technologies and kind of like test certain boundaries and be in this like more like joyful and explorative side of things. But I think what I'm scared of is not like, even though we cannot necessarily, how they say, subtract the human factor and say this is the tool and this is the human, because they're like so embedded from the start. But I think what we're like kind of scared of, or what is worrying, is that's like interlinked between capitalist logics and AI, and how it kind of amplifies and strengthens and it's the, for example, labor dynamics, like labor disparity. So none of this is new, but I think this technology has a power of like accelerating and like really monopolizing, because it's built on the data and like platform economy, and it favors like those who hold the most data and those who have access to the most computing resources, which is currently dominated today by Amazon and maybe like another company, like all the cloud infrastructure. So when you want to do something different, you're kind of bound to use that and build on top of these systems, which is the most really like uncomfortable and worrying part that kind of pisses me the most.
It's hard to escape it. Yeah.
Well, I would say though that it depends what is that you want to build. Like, do you want to build a system that works for everybody, or do you want to build a system that can, propose a different vision? So I was like, in terms of power, getting back to these data sets that I was working on, as power and money. Processing a data set, as you were saying, the more computing power you have, the more, who has access to this resource is absolutely true if you're trying to work like with a big amount of data. Even working with a small amount of data takes up a lot of time. So, cleaning up a data set is a terrible, crazy work where you need a lot of hours of like actually. In my practice, like manual labor, that is not, they're like, I don't have any special programs on, that kind of optimize the data and stuff. So it does take a lot of time. But then at the same time, I think we should stop thinking about, we could change we could bring some change to the AI as a system, and we start creating maybe smaller tools, that we work with smaller data sets. I think this is where we have power without maybe having a lot of wealth and control in getting together, as we come from different communities. And this is, I think, that like what I wish for, to happen in the next months, is that like to come together with communities and to create some like moments of envisioning different AI frameworks, of like sharing what kind of needs do we have, and just being like very unbound by any capitalist agenda behind it, without being forced into, without having to produce something that is functional, something that is efficient, something that works and that a lot of people appreciate or can use. And to kind of empower ourselves in the ideation of technology, and maybe create small data sets, and maybe find some funds to reimburse everyone who gives the data. But to do all of this in a very conscious way, I think this is a way to empower yourself in the face of big companies that have that stand just in front of you and have all the wealth and power and are in control of basically all of your life and your body and your future. So
yeah. So moving on, Buse, something. What's up?
Do we have time though?
Do we have a question period after this time goes, or should we jump into questions now?
I thought in general it's interesting actually to maybe start like just sort of like feeling, like talk with the audience.
Any contributions? Any questions or things that you wanted to chat more about?
Don't be shy.
I think we've got a question over there. If someone's able to walk a mic over.
Just because I hate awkward silences.
Thank you.
No, I think like at least me, I'm processing everything you're saying about it. It's such a, we're living, in such a key moment, and it's very hard to have perspective of what's happening with AI and how it's being used, And I think it's very important to have these kind of conversations with all your 3 points of views, like the creative point of view, the more like political or more, let's say, activist, point of view. And I think my question, it was more like a comment on, especially I think what you were going to talk right now, because I'm very curious about what you have to say about, like the decolonization and the inclusivity, and how sometimes these are terms that in the technological field, they sometimes mix it together, they don't know the difference, or they think that everything is together. And what was your, I'm curious to know what your position is, or what your point of view is on these two topics.
Okay, I think like decolonization, decoloniality, like this is not, it's complicated, and I try to speak with caution because there is the lived experience of generations of people, and this is connected to also land, which is something that I don't have. So I think it's important to be also like reflect on my positionality and be cautious. But what I could a little bit like learn or observe is that so it's not only, I think, about the liberation of the land, but also it's about knowledge production and creation, at least the discourse in the more like the academic world, or how I think it has been approached in the context of technology, even though I don't think this is the only you know, like facade that we need to look at. There's the question of the earth minerals like lithium and others that are being extracted from global south countries with very cheap labor compared to, you know, people who are like more down in the supply chain and who are getting like crazy amounts of like salaries and paychecks and so on. There's the question of taxonomies and epistemologies, like it could be as simple as coding the gender as either male or female, or you know, like that kind of like colonial systems of classifications that sweep into and that, you know, that is amplified through the systems. It's how we make sense of the world, how we name the objects, or what we're optimizing for. Like all these logics, all of them are very powerful and very much present, I would say, in the most of the like systems that we're encountering today. But something that I could see and that I found frustrating multiple times was kind of the conflation of this word with also inclusivity and inclusion, as if, I mean, I have been kind of like victim of this at a podcast that I would like to erase, but I cannot. And it's unfortunately very high up in the Google ranking, is that I was talking to the hosts about this topic because there was nobody else who was available from the, like we had this work that is called the Decolonial Manifesto about AI. Basically, I was more like a student of these people and scholars. But anyways, I was supposed to talk that way about this. And what happened at the end is that like they added like a long monologue after my part that I didn't know of, where I think, I mean, I don't want to disrespect anybody or their work, but it was more about, oh, it's so good to have so many languages and so many people, like, which is, yes, of course it's good, but it's not uncritically just like onboarding people because they look good and exotic, I guess. So it's, I think for me, it's a work that we need to be respectful. Also, all the struggles that are going on right now as we speak, and people dying. So I feel really uncomfortable even be speaking about this here. But also, it's on the knowledge production. It's about even the feeling. You know, as you were saying, what kind of knowledge is accepted and what kind of it is not. It's about ancestry, it's about other kind of practices and spirituality and really all these sort of things. But yeah, I feel like there's kind of sometimes a limited understanding, and it's probably very frustrating for people, especially with lived experience, for whom it's a very serious political project.
I would also add on that. Or do you have a back question? No? Okay. I think that also when we talk about decolonization, we talk about, like, it is often perceived as if, like, colonization is something that happened in the past. And this, you know, like, things need to be done, like the reconciliation, retributions, like all these things that need to be, you know, you need to kind of figure out the past and all the bad things that happened in the past. But actually, A, it's happening right now, and B, it is also happening with our future. So it is happening with our future imagination. So, because as we were talking at the beginning about, you know, science fiction, and as something that forms our imagination about our technologies and about our common futures, like even this, like, imagination is colonized because, and I think, yeah, I like to think about, you know, how can I decolonize my vision of when I try to think about the future, like how can I imagine differently? And it's a big process of reflection. And to inclusivity, I like to empower my work by not, you know, by using inclusive as a word towards technology. So I describe myself as a tech inclusive artist, and I don't think about technology as something that is, you know, should be more inclusive, because this is a weird, very weird concept in general, you know, why, including what, you know, what is included, what is excluded, etc. So I think that it's more empowering to think about, so I want to imagine, you know, kind of like a world for us that is, that is in the first place our life, which includes technology. And when I'm saying us and our, it is conscious generalization, because we can also ask who is us, but it's a question, yeah. So yeah, I am inclusive towards technology.
I love that. And just like one tiny thing, and I'm not gonna lie, I saw this on Instagram. I wasn't reading books, but people were sharing a quote from James Baldwin when he says, like, there's a reason. I think I'm not saying it correctly, but there's a reason why some people dream of like colonizing the moon, and why some just want to like dance on it. And that makes me think of what you're saying about capturing imagination about the future and what it should be like and should look like.
Amazing. Any more questions? We have one there.
I mean, I don't even know if it's a question or like more a shout out. I mean, of course, I know you both, and I want to draw on it's like what you were saying just now, but also in the start, when you started, if you don't engage now in AI, you don't engage in the future. And Buse was like, and I understand the but so I want to actually, because I want to add what we've been doing, what you are doing, what Buse also with Dreaming Beyond AI is doing. I feel it's not even that everybody has to become a coder or everybody has to be able to read code, but I think it's super essential to understand what is AI, like how does it work? And when you were saying, actually they are quite fragile, these algorithms, and we experience this all the time working with tech, right? But I feel it's so empowering to know that, and it's so empowering to know how an algorithm works, and it's so empowering to know why is this showing on TikTok, why is this showing on Instagram, and also maybe to be able to kind of diversify between truth, whatever this means, but like still, and like to, I don't know, fake images, filter bubbles, and also in everyday life to just know what does it mean to give my data, when do I actually work for free for these companies. They are all things, I think, these conscious, if this gets into your consciousness, like you are way more able to decide. And also I think you are way more able to navigate yourself towards it and be like, autonomic in this. And what the shout out is that also like Dreaming Beyond AI, I mean, this is something, that's a platform I would recommend everybody to check, because I feel you provide so many resources also to understand what AI is. And I also feel like to give everybody the platform, and also what we were trying to do, like giving workshops, like sharing the knowledge we have, like even if it's not like if it's to a certain limit, the knowledge we have, but sharing this so everybody is able to share their stories and everybody is able to create their own way of future. And I feel this is something very beautiful, and I really believe in this. And so that's a shout out, and thank you.
Shout out to you.
Shout out back.
Shout back.
This question is going to be a bit broad in terms of your answers. So what if, or how do you imagine would be the consequences if you just decided to not engage with artificial intelligence? Like, you know of it, but you just like, you don't want to engage with it. You don't want to be on TikTok. You don't want to be on the social media networks anymore. You just want to live your life analog. Like, what about the people who want to live life like that? What is how do you feel about that, or what comes to mind when someone says that?
Terrible.
Luxury. Luxury. Yeah, I know that. I mean, as long as you're part of, I guess, how can I say, like you're knowledge worker, or you need to interact with the internet, you're subjected to it. And I have seen, I think recently, a few articles, or also like me observing me and my friends taking a break, like detox and going away. And for most people, it's impossible, and it's a luxury because they have to go through it, and their work is like, let's say, assigned by the algorithm. Let's say you're a gig work. Was it called gig economy work? Like the Yeah, like very kind of like precarious works that are mediated by platforms and everything.
Especially in the creative scene.
Yeah. So I think, like, I don't know exactly what the question is, how I feel about it, but I sometimes dream of it. I just want to do ceramics. We were talking about that with Moises. I don't want to see anything because I feel like my attention and brain is like literally being, bombarded with a lot of stuff, and I have less power to be intentional towards something. But I think it's because, again, what it is right now, like optimized for the design choices that exploit our cognitive weaknesses. But I think it's also weird and problematic that the choice is like increasingly framed as a luxury that not everybody has access to.
Yeah, I absolutely agree to what you say, and I think I'll just add that in Germany, for example, I know that there's this, exiters, the idea of, exiting society, exiting economy, exiting labor market, etc. And it's always a question. So, who are the people who are exiting, and what is that they're exiting, and how do they have, like, where their resources are coming from, etc. So, I think. If you're questioning yourself, can I, leave the technology, or like, can I, keep myself off from social media? Because social media is not the only technology that uses AI. Of course, it's everywhere. So, and it, influences your life on a daily basis. When you're just navigating the city, or you're even talking to other people, or you're going to work, or you're working. So it's just when you are. Thinking about exiting technology, you can ask yourself, okay, what happens when I exit society, and am I in a position to do that or not? And who is not in a position to do that?
I find people who don't have social media so cool, and that's my closing note.
Agreed. Well, thank you both so much for being here and sharing a bit more about your practice and your thoughts and experiences. Thank you so much to Most Wanted Music for having us, and thanks to the audience.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tabitha.